I think the word, when I used it in 2009 a lot, meant hard work. I think the word has been manipulated in society in the last, half decade to mean burnout, and so I've switched using it more in a world of like, people, when a word changes its meaning to a large group of people, you have to acknowledge that. So I use the word work ethic a lot more. I will forever believe in work ethic. There's nothing accomplished without the execution, and I believe in work ethic, and I'm not to the expense of someone's health or mental status, but I'm a very, very big advocate. I would argue that I believe in work ethic more today than I did a decade ago.
So if you had to break it down, right? When you say work ethic, what does that look like for you? Like, how you came up with that acronym GAP? What is work ethic for you?
It's like, we can all agree that there's a certain amount of liquid in this bucket, right? To me, that's work ethic. Like, there is, like, everyone in here, and reading these incredible comments, observations, questions, everybody in here is got different skill sets in different things. So if I put in 7 hours a day into learning how to cook, over time I could be a much, much better cook, but I may not be as great as Jason Holzer or Jan McKinney or Anna, because they just actually had talent along with their work ethic. So there is a talent work ethic thing, but it takes an enormous amount of work to be Beyonce or LeBron, and or probably every single person, here, right? Every one of us are gonna really struggle to not recognize that the hours put into our craft, our execution, the time you put into your children, your employees, making this, trying to figure out the formula for this. Like, for me, it's listening. I spend so much time listening. Everybody sees me talking all the time, but I spend 90% of my time listening. It's why I have early observations on things, and so I work at that. That's me putting in 4 hours last night, reading Twitter, Instagram, forums, Reddit, like I read people's comments. That's why I have a poll. So I'm an anthropologist. I'm a strategist that way. So, I believe in it. I believe it's putting in the work. It's like push-ups. I think everyone here working on their craft and things of that nature, doing push-ups. If you do 8 of them, certain things happen. If you do 80 of them a day, a different thing happens. Now, we all have different muscle composition, so some of us may show more, but the work is the work is the work. It does matter.
Oh my God, that is so interesting, because 10 years ago, you told me that you literally respond to every customer email. Like back then it was email, right? This was like 10 years ago when you were running Wine Library TV.
And by the way, my friend, the reason the Gary Vee thing happened was the 4 years on Twitter where I replied to everybody who tweeted me and reached out to people talking about wine and then social media. Like, there is no people know who I am without the work I put in to establish context. And then my upside was predicated on how much value I was providing. I put in the work, but if all the things I've been saying through the years was to get people to come into my funnel and sign up for my course, right, or like if I wasn't doing the right thing by people, or I have the receipts, they're all on the internet. You go look back at my stuff that I talked about in 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, a remarkable percentage became true. That's gonna give me affirmation, right, of a reputation. People talk about personal brand, and then people are like, I hate that term. I'm like, call it what you want. It's called your reputation. Me being right about a lot of things was better for me than me being wrong about those things.
Things that you've been struggling with, fear, anxiety, a challenge in your health, that child that's off course. When you look at the waters, nothing looks any different. God is telling you a breakthrough is coming, but you don't see any sign of it. You want to believe, but your mind is telling you there's no way. But just like those waters hurried out of the Israelites' way, those obstacles are about to hurry out of your way. Now, you may have had that illness a long time. The prognosis doesn't look good. Receive this into your spirit. It's about to hurry out of your way. That legal trouble looks permanent. That financial difficulty, that situation at work seems like there's no end in sight. Now get ready. God's about to do a quick work. Lack, struggle, debt is about to hurry out of your way. It's going to happen suddenly. It's going to be a rapid turnaround. That's what happened for us here at Lakewood. When we acquired the Compact Center, a company filed a lawsuit to try to keep us from moving in. They said we violated the deed restrictions. Our attorneys told us it could be tied up in the courts for years. When we looked at the waters, like with Moses, nothing looked any different. A year had gone by, the other side wasn't about to bud. They had no contact with us. Looked like it could be that way for another 10 years. But one day, out of the blue, the other side called and said they wanted to meet. Our attorneys said it was probably probably a ploy just trying to distract us. We met with them, and in a couple of hours, they agreed to drop the lawsuit and let us have the building. When it's your time, God knows how to have enemies hurry out of your way. Would have been one thing if we'd have won the lawsuit after 10 years. We would have been grateful. But God is not going to let the opposition delay you from your destiny. He has already scheduled your destiny moments. It may feel like you're falling behind. The opposition is holding you back. Stay encouraged. At the right time, that adversity is going to hurry out of your way. Red seas can't keep you from your purpose. God knows how to part those waters. Legal situations, companies that seem bigger, stronger, they can't stop God's plan for your life. It may feel like you're stuck. You don't see anything improving. Don't worry. God knows how to do a quick work. It can happen suddenly. The scripture says God hastens His word to perform it. That word hasten means quickly, speedily, in a hurry. And I'm not saying that we don't have to wait. There are things that take time. What I'm saying is when you don't see anything happening, it looks like what you're up against is never going to change. When you come into your destiny moment, God will do it speedily, quicker than you thought. You'll accomplish a dream in a fraction of the time.
God tells Abraham, take now thy son, thine only son, and go to a place I will show you. I will show you, not I will tell you, I will show you. And there offer him up as a burnt offering. And Abraham saddles up the ass and loads up his stock and puts his son in the cart, and they head out for a place that God says nothing about. God says, I'll show it to you. Can you walk with God in silence? And it must have been several days' journey that they went, because the Bible said when they were 3 days off. God only knows how many days they walked to get 3 days off. Abraham looked up and saw the place afar off, and an angel said nothing and God said nothing. He just knew it because Abraham knew how to detect the silent sermons of God. Albert Hubbard, the 20th century author and writer, made a quote that I want to share with you. He who does not understand your silence will probably not understand your words. He who does not understand your silence will probably not understand your word. You might as well save your breath. The old adage that is often heard today says, I would rather see a sermon than hear one. But do we really see them? That is the question. Do we really see the silent sermons of God? Do we really detect the silent sermon of God? In our text today, we are watching a prophet, a speaker, a sage, a talker being shushed to silence as God told him to go down to the potter's house, and there I will speak to you. But when he gets to the potter's house, God says nothing at all. So Jeremiah sits down and just watches, because if God is not saying anything, it doesn't mean that he's not saying anything. Without God opening up his mouth, the sermon was to be seen and not heard. And he brings the prophet down to the potter's house, and there he just watches what's going on. And what is amazing about it, for me to go to a potter's house would be a treat, because that's not my norm. But in Jeremiah's day, the potter's house was like going to the mall. It was normal. Pottery has gone back to about 14,000 years before Christ. Our oldest antiquities of civilization have proven that the ancient Mayans and people all over the world, and Asians, if we find nothing left of them, we find their pottery. Are you hearing what I'm saying to you? So pottery was a part of his life, and God says, go down to a place that's normal and stare at it, and I'm going to give you the silent sermon of God. I think we do not see the sermons of God today because we are too busy. We go in to get what we came to get. Give me 2 of them and 1 of them, and we check it out and we go on about our business, and we are too busy to sit down and just stare. And maybe that's why God has shut us down. Maybe God has shut us down to sit us down so that we can hear the silent sermons of God. Maybe God has removed the clutter and the noise and the busyness and shattered your schedule and disrupted your life so that you can notice the things that you have been overlooking. Simple things like your children or your wife or your husband or your life. Maybe God canceled your schedule because you were too busy to hear the silent sermon.